Hi, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com. I'm an evolutionary astrologer and an energy worker, channel, and a medium. Do all kinds of different healing work. A lot of what I do is geared around helping people understand themselves as energetic beings or consciousness, being in a body, experiencing energy as emotion. So a lot of what I do in my coaching and counseling work is to help people identify and understand and listen to emotions and how they experience things energetically, both within themselves and also in relationships and in the world around them. And central to that is Chiron, which I consider beyond the typical assumption that it's the wound or the wounded healer. Like you can be wounded or a wounded healer. I teach about it and have been since 2008 about it being an energy antenna, or how it sensitizes you to certain frequencies. When you feel those frequencies, your own emotional garbage related to that theme or that frequency are activated. So my book, Chiron 2012 and the Aquarian Age, the key on how to use it, is a great place to begin. And don't let 2012 being in the title make you think it's outdated. From the channeling that I've done, which is quite extensive, about in 2008, sorry, I was going to say 2008. I guess that's a good way to say it. But anyway, in 2008, I asked this ascended master I work with, what's the deal with 2012? And everything he had to say in response was about an upgraded teaching of Chiron as an energy antenna. So humans can learn how to operate themselves more consciously and intentionally as energetic beings. And that's really the evolutionary phase we're headed into as we now transition in the very first stages of moving from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. So I've turned it into astrology teaching and created the book. And then I tried to turn the book into a natal report and it didn't translate because the book's a transcription. So anyway, so I started over and wrote this entire natal report. So the Chiron Natal Report doesn't treat quincunxes, which is a 150-degree aspect I'll explain in a moment. It only treats the major Ptolemaic aspects: conjunction, sextile, square, trine, opposition. So sometimes I get questions about quincunxes to Chiron in the natal chart. And I actually have one and I've mentioned it in some videos. So somewhere along the line, I guess, because people have mentioned it to me. I don't even know what I put up on YouTube anymore. Just I put something up and move on. And then 2 years later, somebody says, oh, I saw that. And I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, I wanted to do a quick video on quick relative to to how I talk, but on natal quincunxes to Chiron. But I encourage you to get the book and the natal report to get a sense of the teaching in the book, and then a more compact version of it, specifically interpreting your chart. But it doesn't include quincunxes. So here's the deal. Quincunx is about 150 degrees, and and we use a tight orb with this. We use up to 3 degrees, but the tighter the better. And it's an uncomfortable aspect where two planets don't understand each other at all. So if you encountered it in another person, it would feel like you are oil and that person is water, or vice versa. Like you don't understand, you can't relax, you're on edge, your skin crawls, you don't understand. You're energetically caught off guard and discomfited. I think of it as this energy can knock you off course or kind of derail what you're trying to do because there's some energy that you can't understand. Now, if it's an opposition, somebody might, like in a relationship or in a conversation, somebody might say to you, oh, I see this thing that you do that you don't see. And you might be taken aback a little bit, or you might feel challenged or criticized in a certain way, but it'll help you see yourself in a way that you can't see yourself. And also, planets that are opposite each other have different ways of doing the same things, so people can learn through reflection. Like if you're a Sagittarius person operating on your core beliefs, opposed by a Gemini situation, you'll be encouraged to open up and take in new information. Or somebody might say to you, have you considered this possibility? But if you're doing your Sagittarius thing, you haven't, because you're operating on whatever beliefs you walked in the door with. So an opposition can help you learn through reflection. I didn't know that I was doing that. A square tells you that you're doing something, that you should do something differently. Sometimes it can feel very critical, where a situation or a person is kind of pressing you to be different or do different things, or to do whatever you're doing in a new way or for new reasons. For a number of years with my mom, I would tell her I did something and she would say, "Oh, how'd you do that?" And I would tell her and she'd say, "Oh, why didn't you do it this other way?" And I'd be a little kind of stopped in my tracks and I'd say, "Well, because that wasn't how I chose to do it." I'd be like, kind of confused because it was years. And it's just like her Leo stuff squares my Scorpio stuff. So there's a natural square. So whatever my logic is with Scorpio, her logic within Leo is different. So she's curious, like, "Oh, well, this seems to be a more efficient way, or why don't you try this?" So with squares, you learn through being pressured. Either you get new information that's good, or you evaluate why you were doing that thing in the first place, and you maybe come up with more self-confidence as a result. So either way, you can learn a lot through squares, but it can be pressure. Okay, great. Trines are supportive, kind of cheerleading a little bit. Sextiles are kind of poking, like, "Hey, step up, do this thing." Quincunxes, 150 degrees. They don't speak the same language. They don't have any understanding. Take the example of Aries, which wants to spontaneously react to things. It doesn't want to, it naturally responds, right, reacts. Quincunx Virgo, naturally, where Virgo is very methodical and has made a list of the 10 things that matter and the 3 things that really matter this week, and is going to be very discerning. So they don't speak the same language. And so a planet in Aries, quincunx a planet in Virgo, can feel very uncomfortable. They don't know how to be in the same room together. Oil and water, can't figure this out. Now, in a natal chart, a quincunx represents 2 parts of you, or the chart holder's psyche, that are in this relationship together. Now, if 2 planets in the chart are square, in external dynamics, but also within the person, there'll be this, within the person herself, one part will say, "I'm going to do this," and another part will say, "Is that the best way to do it? I don't think so." Or if it's opposition, "I'm going to do this," and the other part says, "Oh, wait a minute, what if this is true? Maybe we shouldn't do that." Right? Perspective, right? Criticism, pressure, perspective, ultimately learning. The quincunx, these 2 parts don't hear each other. They get uncomfortable because they can't understand what the other is saying or what the energy is. So within a person, typically, this is where we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this. Within a person, a chart holder will emphasize one of those energies in natal quincunx and not the other one. So when the other one comes up, the person may feel blindsided, knocked off course, confused, a little panicky, because he or she doesn't know how to deal with that energy. The example I've used in some of these videos, I think, is my own son, natal sun, quincunx Chiron in the 7th, sun in the 2nd in Scorpio. Quincunx, Chiron, and Aries on the descendant in the 7th. And so for me, sun in Scorpio in the 2nd, I'm sane, sun keyword, if I am intensely focused, Scorpio, on time management and where my attention goes. So running a business and kind of like developing tools and having my own stuff that I'm learning and processing and creating tools, I have to focus. So if I do that all the time, then when I'm aware of others' pain and suffering, or I'm aware of others feeling things, right, Chiron in the 7th, my sun gets stopped in its tracks and can't produce. And years ago, I wouldn't do the sun because I was distracted by the Chiron. And then, I don't know, it's probably through this work that I've become more comfortable, got to keep my eye on the clock, more comfortable with my sun. But the more I do my sun, now I notice, oh, somebody's crying, now what? Because my list is not getting any shorter. And it may at times make me look cold, but the sun in me doesn't know how to hold space for people's emotions. So if I ignore that, then when people have emotional issues come up, I feel knocked off course and clueless and panicky, in a way. Part of me does. I mean, my work is a lot about Chiron and helping people, et cetera. But like in my personal life, if there's a lot of emotional stuff, sometimes it is really hard for me because the sun perceives it needs to focus. Like Scorpio focus, like exclusively, like, you know. So the point is I have to learn to go back and forth. I have to intentionally do the sun energy, and at different times when it's appropriate or necessary, I have to do the Chiron energy. So if you have a natal quincunx to Chiron in your chart, think about whatever the other planet is. Like if it's Mars, your self-assertion function, your feeling that you have the right to say yes, please, and no, thank you, your self-interested self-defense thing, even your desire function, you being clear that you want something or don't want something. If that's quincunx Chiron, then your awareness of other people's emotions will get you, will trip you up. And the house and sign of your natal Chiron matters. But I just want to point out that like the Mars normal function may feel derailed. Well, let's say it's Venus. Whatever, you know, your relating style, the dialogue between you and others that evolves over time, your relationships, but also the evolution of your value system, how you choose to use your time and energy is also represented by Venus. So if, you know, Venus quincunxes Chiron, well, that might get thrown off. Like you might lose track of what's important to you because somebody else is experiencing something or emotional something comes to you. So, you know, think about when Chiron comes to you, think about people who are feeling things, people who are super energetically sensitive, people who are healers and shamanic types, very intuitive types too, people who have unmet childhood or mommy, I call them unmet mommy and daddy issues, people who have a part of them that feels helpless and is looking for someone to latch onto to feel safe. That's a Chiron inner infant kind of thing. So whatever the natal planet is, somebody else's needs is a broad way to say it. And then this kind of like, you know, somebody who has maybe some whining or maybe some just kind of like the emotional intensity or the reality of, you know, sensitivity, right? Let's say it's your moon. Your moon is what you have to do to make yourself happy, to feed on a regular basis, to have a sense of inner safety, security, and stability. And it's something that the energy rises and falls, right? We think about the moon itself, you know, waxing and waning, right? The light from the sun on the face of the moon. And the moon energies change over time, and we have to adjust to those over time. So how you take care of yourself is one way to think of that. Quincunx Chiron, does somebody else's needs make you forget what you need? So think about how that can work, right? Somebody else is sensitive. So if you're doing something, then other people's sensitivity can knock you off course, right? Or their needs seem more important because, again, it's an inner infant. So whatever the planet is, you might tend to be knocked off course or thrown off course and confused a little bit by other people's issues with that. So I invite you to go through my videos and get the book and also the Chiron Natal Report and go through your chart and see if you have a quincunx, again, within 3 degrees, the tighter the better. Mine is actually just over 3 degrees, but I count it. No, but I'm doing that wrong. 1346. No, I'm wrong. It is within 3 degrees. I was thinking of the other one from Sun to Saturn, which is a little more. So I guess I don't count that much anymore, but the quincunx within 3 degrees, and some people might say a different orb. Some people might say 2 degrees, 1.5 degrees, but it's all good. You can test it in different charts. Quincunx isn't going to be that common, but you can test it and see like where the strongest effect is. But that sense of, I don't know how to do what I'm doing. So you have to go back and forth between those 2 planets, the Chiron being one of them. Figure out what that Chiron means, what it wants, what it needs, where your energetic vulnerability or sensitivity is. Where might you have unprocessed infant or mommy and daddy issues? Where do you fear rejection? In what part of life? House. In what way? Sign. You know, does part of you fear not being accepted and loved? So if you were to do that part of you, you'd garner or gain rejection. To work through Chiron issues is the key with the quincunx. So you'll notice it, just to wrap this up, you'll notice it in terms of other people and other influences when they come in. But your job is to learn how to manage it yourself and how to work both. It's quite common to have, you know, for you to live certain energies in your chart on a rotating basis. And then if there are difficult, we'll say hard aspects, specifically squares, oppositions, or quincunxes, to that planet, like let's say I'm doing my Moon Mercury conjunction, they're opposed by Saturn. So when I'm doing those things, I might be super attuned to expecting Saturn energy to oppose them. Or when I'm in a groove with my Sun, I might be attuned to the Chiron quincunx that planet, quincunxing it and throwing me off course. Learn all the different elements or configurations in your chart. Learn, for me, the healthy version of Saturn. Like, let me get habituated to the healthy version of that. So when I'm doing my Moon Mercury and I'm attuned to negative Saturn, I can heal that. Quincunx Chiron, let me get attuned to positive interpretations of what my Chiron and Aries in the 7th can look like. And then let me develop that and put it in my repertoire. The image as I'm talking here is of like when you open up a box of crayons, let's say the biggest box of crayons, and the colors are, you know, graded, so to speak, like the blues are together, they kind of blend into the purples, reds, whatever. They're all kind of together like that. When you're talking about these discomforting aspects, it's like you open it up and they're all out of order, but you kind of need to give each its due and give each attention. So check out the Chiron book, Chiron 2012 and the Aquarian Age, the key on how to use it. And check out the Chiron Natal Report, which is, it's pre-written, but it's assembled specifically to your chart. And right now I'm putting them together by hand. I have a contract with the publisher who's delayed on publishing it. Then it will be automated later, like the Lilith report is. Yeah, check out my site, tdjacobs.com, and also healingsuicide.com if you're looking for some support in dealing with difficult emotions and understanding the journey of soul. Take care.